LG's RGB tandem panel was one of the biggest leaps in OLED technology we saw last year. But until now, you only had one option if you wanted the new panel, the expensive Flagship G5. This year, however, the horizons have expanded. RGB tandem tech has made its way to the C6H in addition to the Flagship G6. So which of these tandem OLEDs should you buy? We'll be testing all of this year's new models as they come out, so be sure to subscribe to stay in the loop. At a high level, both the G6 and C6H are fantastic TVs with more similarities than differences. The G6, positioned above the C6H, does have some advantages, most notably better reflection handling and higher peak brightness, but in practice, the deciding factor comes down to size and price. If you're looking for any size other than 77 or 83 inches, the answer is easy. Between these two, only the G6 comes in a wide range of sizes, from 55 inches to a massive 97-inch model. But if you're specifically in the market for a 77 or 83-inch model, the C6H is worth considering. If you can sacrifice a bit of brightness and reflection handling, you'll save yourself a decent chunk of change by simply getting a C6H. For a full breakdown of each of these TVs, you can watch our individual reviews over on the channel. Setting price and size options aside, the biggest difference between the C6H and the G6 is their bright room performance. The G6 is the better performer here, thanks in part to its superior brightness. In SDR, the G6 hits over 1100 nits in a 10% window compared to about 900 nits on the C6H. It's not a massive difference, but the G6 gets notably brighter with real content, giving it a bit of an edge if you want to ensure visibility in a bright room. On top of that, the G6 has significantly better reflection handling. That's because of LG's new 3-layer anti-glare reflection-free premium coating, which actually does make a big difference. As you can see, direct reflections are almost non-existent, so if you have any direct light sources in the room, they'll barely affect your viewing experience. And crucially, the new coating hardly impacts ambient black level rays, so you won't have to compromise on black levels to get reduced reflections. Setting aside this glaring difference, however, the two LG OLEDs are very similar in performance. They both have incredible colors thanks to their RGB tandem panels with almost identical coverage of both SDR and HDR color spaces, and color accuracy is great on both, especially after calibration. We had a tougher time calibrating the C6H, but that can vary from unit to unit. Both also measured very high HDR brightness when using our test slides, although the G6 was able to hit higher peaks, capping out at about 3300 nits in a 2% window. However, despite our best efforts, we could never reach the peak brightness we expected in real scenes. So even though the G6 technically gets brighter in HDR than the C6H, it doesn't actually translate to looking brighter in real content. You're going to have a similar HDR experience with either TV, so don't let those higher test pattern measurements fool you too much. While we're talking about HDR, there's another big caveat we have to add. Both of these TVs had issues in Dolby Vision. Generally, for both TVs, there are more banding and contouring issues in Dolby Vision than in HDR10. We also noticed a diagonal dithering artifact in certain near-black scenes in Dolby Vision, similar to last year's G5 and C5. It was more pronounced on the G6 than the C6H, however. It only popped up in certain scenes, but at this price point, it was more than a little disappointing to encounter issues like this. However, we're happy to report that as of firmware 43.10.69, all of the issues with Dolby Vision have been resolved on both TVs. So this shouldn't be a deal breaker if you're thinking of buying one of these TVs. Performance and bugs aside, there are some design differences to note that may sway you one way or the other. If aesthetics are important to you, the G6 has a flush fit gallery design with a uniform depth and flush wall mount that lets you mount the TV almost completely flush against the wall. Both TVs look premium and high-end though. The stone-like finish on the C6H is a nice touch, for example, even if no one will really see it when watching TV. Since we bought the 65-inch G6, it has the option to buy an adjustable stand with two different height options for soundbar clearance. But if you get the 77 or 83-inch versions, they use the same stand as the larger C6H, which isn't adjustable. The C6H puts an interesting wrench into LG's OLED lineup. With the benefits of an RGB tandem panel, it's kind of a no-brainer if you're shopping for a bigger OLED. Unless you really care about reflection handling and wall mount aesthetics, you should just save some cash and get the C6H. Better yet, with the eye-watering prices of both these models, there's never been a better time to buy a G5 on sale while you can still find them. If you end up buying one of these models, let us know what you think. And as always, we have the best community of TV experts and fans on the internet on our Discord. So if you have any questions or opinions, join and share your thoughts there. Thanks so much for watching.